This is a call for vengeance. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard, Chile has been set ablaze. Yet another country or another location where there just happens to be a very convenient forest fire in a place that is opposed to what they're trying to bring in, which is global government. Now, I'm going to break this down so you can understand it because it's pretty scary, but it's also a blueprint for what they're doing all around the world, with countries that are resisting to go along with new constitution, globalist constitutions, which is what just occurred in Chile, like we saw in Turkey with the earthquake. It's very, very frightening. But let me start, if you haven't seen what happened, by showing you a news clip where this is Chile's president, Gabriel Boric, who is just another one of these guys you can look at. You know, he's a weak male, a prick, one of these puppets that they've put in place to bring about green energy, to change the whole constitution, the whole setup of Chile. And of course, what happened in Chile when he was put in office is very similar to what's happening all around the world right now. We saw it in Brazil, we've seen it in America. The civilians are suspicious of the elections because there's no way that these people are actually winning elections. Now, all the elections are rigged anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But they're doing the same blueprint with these elections where people are questioning the elections, and then they're trying to frame the people who are opposed to the election, who are questioning the election as terrorists. It's the same exact thing in America all around the earth right now. So listen to this news clip of what happened in Chile, and look at the president who comes out on national TV after the fires and talks about how arson was likely set. That's right, arson. So they can't even blame climate change because the footage you see is it's so unbelievable. You could just tell that it was torched, that this was not climate change wildfire. So whatever reason, some arsonists just decided they wanted to murder hundreds of people and set fires that even an arsonist could not possibly set by burning house after house. Nobody caught him. Nobody saw him dumping lighter fluid. I mean, give me a break. Listen to this nonsense.
Visiting a rural community ravaged by wildfires, Chilean President Gabriel Boric consoled residents, promising aid to thousands of affected families. He also addressed fears of arson.
We have appointed a colonel for each county who will be in direct contact with the mayors and will tell them exactly which area needs special patrolling. We know that improving a sense of security is very necessary to prevent uncivilized behavior of miserable people.
Residents here say they're still in danger after surviving last weekend's wildfire.
Last night we discovered a tree trunk on fire. It didn't catch on fire by itself. It happened right when two strangers were seen roaming the entrance after curfew.
Navy Special Forces are being deployed on land and air on the lookout for arsonists who are suspected of having started a wildfire last Friday that destroyed entire neighborhoods. There's still a lot of questions as to how and why the worst natural disaster in Chile since the 2010 earthquake took place. The government is asking the European Union for assistance because of its expertise in wildfires, especially in highly populated areas. But the people who live here say that there are other things that need to be taken into account. They're referring to an incentive to burn land.
Everyone can see that whatever forest or agricultural land has been ravaged by wildfires, soon after the land is sold for housing projects. First the fire, then the sale of the lots.
I asked the Deputy Interior Minister about the allegation.
For some time, there's been a bill in Congress that would declare areas impacted by fires ineligible for building projects. It's unacceptable that there be a perverse incentive for wildfires to benefit private economic interests.
Others are pushing for the government to increase penalties and try arsonists as terrorists. Whatever the cause or the motivation behind these fires, the outcome has been deadly.
So yes, of course, arson was really done, but it was done from a direct energy weapon, and it was done by the guy right on screen there, the president of Chile. Now, listen to this bizarre story, which isn't so bizarre if you actually start connecting the dots, that happens to happen at the same time as this massive catastrophe, which was done by design. Former president of Chile, Sebastian Pinera, dies in a helicopter crash. So this fire set ablaze. They know people are going to be suspicious, and at the same time, A helicopter was just flying the former president of Chile crashes into, I believe they said it crashed into the ocean. It crashed and he didn't survive. So he's dead. You know, this goes on. I mean, don't be suspicious, right? A wildfire that they're saying is set by arson because they can't even blame climate change. The former president of this country for, you know, a couple of reigns, at least a couple of regimes, dies in a helicopter fire. And then when they're starting to blame arson, look at these other stories that are surrounding Chile. Not to mention the fact that Chile has a direct tie-in with the World Economic Forum. Because who do you think selected and put this guy in place? Because all this guy's trying to do is take Chile and redo Chile. Remove gun rights, remove natural gas. This is all the same blueprint, right? So at the same time, all this stuff is going on, okay? They just attempted to put in a new constitution in Chile. That's right, a new constitution. And what did the civilians say? The people, they rose up against it. They said, we don't want a new constitution. We reject this. This is garbage. This is total government overreach. We don't want to give control of our lives to the government, which is what everybody's trying, you know, to fight against. So Chile rejected a second attempt to renew the constitution, okay? And it's a left-wing dominated constitution that they're trying to write up. So they're saying that at least 60% of people in Chile rejected it. The country got, you know, and then, of course, what happened? Gabriel Boric came on TV and he said the country got divided. He said the result shows the process didn't channel the hopes of having a new constitution written by everyone. Of course, this constitution won't be written by everyone. They're the same blueprint in America. Talk about destroying the constitution as you see them destroying the whole government setup here. I mean, even just with Mayorkas, it's something I can cover in a separate video. But here in America, they were talking about impeaching the guy who's responsible for all this stuff at the border, supposedly, right? He's the fall guy scapegoat. You know, Mayorkas. And of course, the Republicans are so discombobulated, they can't even impeach him properly, right? Just like the stuff with Biden summoning and speaking about, you know, having conversations with the French president who's been dead for 30 years. They're just, you know, showing you incompetency, trying to say, hey, this whole thing's messed up. We got to start over, and setting us up for an attack, obviously. So the attacks they're using are direct energy weapons. They're using all sorts of weaponized weather in California. They're wiping out. And a common thing that I see people asking and saying is, are they rejecting it? Are Californians rejecting the World Economic Forum's globalist plan? Is Chile rejecting it? Well, the civilians may be rejecting it, which is why they're wiping them out. I mean, Turkey just went through the same thing, and they wiped out pretty much the entire region. Okay, they just demolished homes. They killed everybody off. Then they come in with bulldozers. They don't turn the cameras on for that because it's a smart city, a smart, you know, prison cell is going to pop up in these locations. So the civilians disagree. This guy goes around and says arson. What's next? They're going to come out and find the guy. Let me guess. The president is saying that it's an arsonist. So look, we can all see the blueprint, right? We're going to find out that it's a conservative, right-wing conspiracy theorist, probably named Lee Harvey Oswald or possibly George Glass, who was listening to conspiracy theories online, who hated, had whispers and mentioned and liked posts against the World Economic Forum. It'll be the same blueprint because every one of these stories is the same blueprint, building up what a terrorist is in the mind of the zombies out there. Anyone who's opposed to globalism is a terrorist threat, and they're willing to burn. Meanwhile, the government's responsible for doing all of it. And these people are too dumb to realize who's responsible for this quote-unquote sabotage, which is exactly what it is. So they're pretty much telling you, if you don't go along, if the civilians don't go along with their globalist constitution, which would be the removal of free speech, putting in hate speech laws, of course, not telling you it's about taking away free speech, telling you it's about being nice and kind, all these suckers believe it, removal of guns so that the civilians are screwed and can't arm up against these psychopaths. And eventually everybody's going to wake up and realize that they're enslaved, including people of color, people of gay people. Everybody who thinks that this whole thing is to protect them is going to realize that they were just duped with duping the light. And it's going to be too late. And all the civilians are going to be unarmed. And again, they use the military against us, which is a big problem. You know, everyone's like, oh, well, the military. They think of the propaganda commercials about how the military is there to serve us. I've covered this for years, okay? And I know a lot of you out there probably are in the military. But the military goes through, you know, basic MK Ultra mind control programming. It's not, you know, the type that you see on national television, but they're put through trauma-based mind control in a sense with all the stuff that they put them through. It's not just to train them with physicality. It's to mentally beat into them that, you know, they're servants of the government. The government can it just go on and on and on. And then these people start believing in the globalist ideologies. They don't even realize it. And they don't realize that they're being turned on the civilians. And then they start planting in their head that the civilians are the enemy. They're not training the military and saying, hey, we're going to kill all the civilians in the country you're supposed to protect. Otherwise, they would snap at them. They're training them like Manchurian candidates, and then they're starting to tell them, oh, here's the, don't think about this, don't think about that. This is the job you have to do. Don't get your emotions involved. They're a threat to the government. Your job is to protect the government. Thus, they have this military all armed up against all of us, all the citizens around the earth right now. Okay? So I know everyone out there's like, well, and it doesn't mean if you're an ex-military, what do you think they have PTSD from? They have the PTSD from forms of trauma-based mind control. Okay? People are like, well, they saw guns in Afghanistan and this and that. They go through, literally go through trauma-based mind control to be soldiers in the military. Okay? That's what happens to them. And I'm not, attacking them. I'm just telling you how it actually is. So if you're an ex-military guy and you know what's going on, that's great. You're going to be very needed and useful for everything that's coming up. But I mean, they have a massive military with massive technology, which leads me back to Chile. Okay? Direct energy weapons are real. Okay? Everybody out there should know this. I've covered the clips. I've shown you clips before from Maui where we can all see that they have the ability to use, go up in a jet and literally just shoot a beam down and fry places. Now, there's probably a lot of footage out there because people reuse footage, put it out there on purpose so that they want people like me to take these clips and say, look, this is what happened in Chile. And then they go, well, that clip was from 2010. We fact check it. They want you to do that so that people just automatically dismiss the story. So I'm not going to go through and look at any of these clips where you're seeing beams from the sky, but there are things that have been uploaded, but it doesn't matter. All you need to do is look at the damage that's caused. A regular wildfire could not do that, let alone arson, okay? It's arson in a sense because the government's responsible for setting the fire, so yeah, you want to call it arson, But they want you to think that some guy grabbed gasoline and, grabbed lighter fluid and matches, a bunch of people who were just so anti-liberal, anti the new Constitution, and they went around and instead decided to burn civilians' homes to the ground. Oh, they didn't decide to go and burn, Borik's home to the ground. Gabriel Boric, the guy responsible for trying to pretty much upend the entire, their way of life. No, they went to just some regular guys home who have kids who don't care, who know nothing about what's going on, and they were like, well, we're going to send a message and just light their homes on fire. Of course it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't have to make sense, right? Now, we know they can set these false flags around the Capitol buildings, etc. But they come out so fake, the footage, etc. anyway. But they want to wipe these people out, so they wipe them out. They blame it on a boogeyman, and eventually the boogeyman will have all the same things that we always hear. It's a group of militia, a group of conspiracy nuts. At the same time, while in this country, I talked about in a previous video the bill that they're trying to pass, Bill H.R. 6981, which is a bill all the countries are trying to pass, which civilians are not allowed, to form. The key wording it is more than 3 people getting together in any type of protest, et cetera, right? So they're going to probably frame this group as a militia group that start the fires with no real, what the purpose was, they were just so angry, right? Like not thinking like, oh, okay, they're going to go to jail or get killed for the rest of their lives, so they might as well just set civilians' homes on fires instead of going after the people that they really hate. I mean, of course it makes no sense, but the people out there, all they need to do is hear the government propaganda on the television, and they won't think any further than that. So when we look at the fire there, we obviously can see it's a direct energy weapon. They can't even deflect on the narrative and talk about, well, maybe it was actually global warming, because it's so legitimately like, the stuff we saw in Maui, they were surprised, I think, at the feedback, so they just buried the story, right? Then you can go to the other stuff with the World Economic Forum in Chile. Because since this guy has been placed in power, okay, which they wanted this guy in, the whole story behind this guy is he was one of the people. He was going to protest, a political activist who became president. It's kind of like the Zelensky propaganda that they use, right? They want you to think he's an everyday man, that he's someone like you who protests, who doesn't like what's going on. He's going to make change, right? He's going and telling you he's going to rewrite the Constitution. So it's unbelievable. The World Economic Forum even has stuff on their website. Chile's becoming a leader in renewable energy. Chile has set an ambitious goal of converting 70% of its total energy consumption to renewables by 2030 and pledged to become carbon neutral by 2050. The country's energy transition strategy has evolved in recent years through a combination of blah, blah, blah. Its renewable energy strategy could serve as a playbook for industrialized countries in Latin America